All right. Next item is Ordinance 10-17, ordinance to rezone parcels 1.01, and 1.02, tax map 152CC, located on the southwest corner of Kingston Pike and Cheho Road, across from Ingalls, .45, .46, and .44 acres respectively, from O1 to C1. GBS Engineering, Mark A. Bielik, applicant.
In your packet is included a staff write-up on this request. The property that's in question is located on the southwest corner of Kingston Pike and Cheho Road. The property is currently vacant. It is bisected by a drainage way, and it is currently zoned office. All the property through that area is zoned office, and there have been several requests over the years to rezone the properties in that area from office to commercial, and all of the requests have either been denied or were withdrawn after consideration at the Planning Commission. The office zoning district has slightly smaller or reduced setbacks requirements than the C1 district, and these lots are substandard in size, and it is not recommended that you would rezone properties to create a greater non-conforming situation. In addition, the office district provides a transitional land use between the single-family residential neighborhoods of Peterson, the Kingsgate Peterson Road area, and the Linda Heights subdivisions. The 01 district serves as a transition area in other areas in town, including between the Old Stage Hills neighborhood and the Ott's Barbecue Renaissance development, and also along from Brooklawn, along Concord Road, there from Thornton Heights. And also we have several higher density residential districts that serve as a transition area between single family residential and your higher intense land uses, such as the area that's zoned R4 in front of Fox Den subdivision. And then you have the R5, the duplex area along Kingston Pike that's part of Village Green subdivision. The Land Use and Transportation Policy Plan establishes that these uses, the office district and higher density residential, serve as transitional land uses between like an arterial or commercial uses and single-family residential. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended denial of this rezoning to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and the staff also recommends denial of this rezoning. If the board approves this ordinance, however, the Community Development staff and the Planning Commission recommend that a subdivision plat dissolving all the interior lines be recorded prior to second reading. You may recall we have done this in several cases, that prior to second reading that there be a plat recorded.
The applicant here. Any discussion?
Ms. Hawks, do we know if they have an intended use for this property, or they just want to get it rezoned and sell it as commercial, or do you know what's
one of the uses that was discussed, but we have no way of knowing for sure if that's what it would be, was the Brewster's Ice Cream Store.
And the situation is also that people who live on that road don't want a curb cut onto that road, right?
curb cut from Cheho Road?
Right.
Kind of curb cut would be evaluated at the time of site plan, depending on the use, and generally speaking, depending on the use, there'd be a traffic impact study that would be submitted as part of the development request.
In reading through your notes, I see substandard in size repeated numerous times. What can you define that exactly? How they're substandard and what it would take to make them standard?
The lot size is currently within both the O1 district and the C1 district. The minimum lot size is 1 acre. And in essence, to meet the minimum setback requirements of the zoning district, and that the 1 acre was established years ago as really being the minimum that you can do and to meet that requirement. All of these lots are less than 1 acre. They're like 0.45, 0.46, and 0.44 acres, respectively. They're currently under 3 separate owners. They are 3 siblings that own these lots. And but we did put the caveat that if you did choose to approve the rezoning ordinance, that the lots would be combined to create one larger lot, which would then take care of the substandard situation. This is unusual because we are dealing with 3 different owners, so the combining of the lots can possibly be problematic.
I'm sorry, I was distracted there. The last part of that. What would be problematic?
Because we're dealing with 3 separate owners, and we're not familiar with the arrangement with the separate owners.
So if we were to make the stipulation that they would combine them into a single conforming lot, and make that a condition, then it would be a conforming lot, right?
I'm not sure if that's feasible because there are 3 separate owners.
But I think if we made that a condition, then it would be up to them whether or not they wanted to pursue it. Okay. Thank you.
A bit more about the importance of having a transition area between a higher density commercial user and the residents who live in that area. If you could elaborate a bit more on why that is such an important thing to have as indicated here.
In our land use plan and transportation policy plan, I included a couple of the policies that address the transitional. The first one being under the residential statement section, which states transitional land uses and design elements such as buffer strips should be utilized between residential neighborhoods, commercial areas, and other incompatible developments in order to enhance land use compatibility. The second section where it's stated is commercial and private services section of the plan. The O1 office district is located adjacent to commercial districts which abut arterial roadways. This district creates a transitional area between more intensive and less intensive land uses. The district provides office space for professional and personal services which are intended to serve both local neighborhoods and the larger community, while minimizing traffic flow disruptions and negative impacts to adjacent residential areas. If you're familiar with an office use, generally speaking, their hours are typical work hours, 8 to 5, 8 to 6, and so your disruption is fairly limited, whereas with commercial establishments, your hours tend to be longer into the evening and also on weekends. And so the office district serves as a nice buffer, more or less, transitional use from the higher intensity to your lower intensity uses. The town has used this in numerous areas, and I referenced these locations being at Old Stage Hills. Part of Renaissance was actually zoned office to buffer it between the neighborhood, to buffer it from like the Ott's Barbecue and other commercial areas. In front of Fox Den, the vacant land, that is zoned R4, which is attached single-family dwelling units, to protect Fox Den subdivision from Kingston Pike. Then you have Jamestown Boulevard. You have all the churches are zoned S1 to transition into the Village Green neighborhood. Then you also have Campbell Station Road, where you have the open space parks with the land that the town has purchased and the library. serving as a transition area into Village Green neighborhood. And then along Concord Road, you do have the office zoning district between the Brook Lawn development and the Thornton Heights neighborhood. And then you also have the open space parkland where the cemetery and that is between the higher intense use and South Campbell Station Road from Concord Hills. So it's a fairly common practice in the town of Farragut. One of the other ones, again, is the duplexes of Village Green along Kingston Pike, which serves as a transition area from Kingston Pike to the neighborhood.
Now, this particular property has come for rezoning in the past, right?
I don't recall that this property has come before the town, but the properties in the vicinity have. The most recent property that came for rezoning was the property that's located immediately on the east side of Cheho. The property owner at that time requested that it be rezoned, and then what is now the 3 new houses, that also be rezoned to commercial. That was denied, and the property has since been developed as an architect's office, and then the 2 lots were re-subdivided into 3 lots, and 3 new homes have been constructed on those lots.
Well, as I understand it, the purpose of this transitional land use, in a perfect world, you would have commercial fronting the major artery, office behind it, and then residential behind it. And I can see the purpose of that. However, I think that the highest and best use of Kingston Pike is that it is inherently a commercial zone. And I'm not sure why this little tract was arbitrarily zoned office when it's fronting Kingston Pike. But I think the highest and best use of it probably would be commercial, and it would provide some revenue for the town in the form of taxes. So I don't see where it's really providing a buffer, or where it could be used in its perfect sense without penalizing the owners of the property. So.
Well, if we zone it commercial, then any use that's allowed in the commercial district is possible there.
Correct, and also the land use plan also indicates that we would prefer the clustering of zoning rather than a pure strip commercial along Kingston Pike. Just because a road is a major arterial, you should not necessarily encourage commercial use along the entire length of it. For one thing, to do that, you end up creating a vacancy problem and a blight problem because you have too much land zoned commercial for what your population base can support. I think anybody, in spite of the boom development that we had in the 2000s, mid-2000s and early 2000s, when Parkside Drive opened up, it created a vacancy rate issue on Kingston Pike from the standpoint of there is so much additional commercial land, and the population base in this region could not support all of that active commercial land. And so what you end up seeing is, if you look at the Winn-Dixie at Mabryhood, that is Mabryhood, isn't it? It used to be the Winn-Dixie, and now it's a federal office building, if I remember correctly, that it just couldn't sustain that use. And so it's transitioned into an office setting, and that's generally speaking what happens when you don't have that population base to support that much commercial land.
The market was pretty smart in figuring that out, and it reverted to a use that was sustainable by the marketplace when it went back from commercial to office, which this could also go to office under the C1 zoning, correct?
Yes. Office uses are allowed within the C1 district.